All right, this is Brian Johnson, staff writer with Finance and Commerce. Please be joined here with Lev Buslovich of Apadana. Is that right? And we wanted to visit you with you a little bit, Lev, about your company and some of the trends you're seeing in the industry. First of all, thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
Thanks. I'm glad it's Friday and it's still beautiful out.
Yeah, we're finally hopefully getting some real fall weather here, actually. So I kind of like that in a way after dealing with the heat. But anyway, tell us a little bit now about your company, Lev, and how long you've been in business and what you do. I know you work a lot with renewable energy systems, EV and solar PV systems, and integrating those into developments. And I wonder how if you could just talk a little bit about that and how long you've been in business.
Sure. So I'll actually start like this. My background was actually in corporate, GE, Target, Carlson companies, and reluctantly in '07, I started a company when people weren't really sure what the word sustainability or efficiency meant in those days. So we started a company focusing on lighting controls, HVAC, anything that's electrical that was kind of a proven technology back then. Um, and then Apadana was started about 12 years ago by two engineers. One was an electrical engineer, one's a mechanical engineer. In 19, I ended up selling my company, doing some other things for a few years until my non-compete ran out, and then joined these guys about 3 years ago. And they also started in the lighting field, but because of their engineering background, they quickly got into other areas, such as, frankly, we have a company called Clark that does water purification, and but we also do a lot of renewables work in solar, EV charging, battery storage, and geothermal and other related efficiency and renewable products. And we focus on the division that I run on the Apadana Energy side on commercial solar. We do some residential, but we don't really actively promote it. And we do a lot of solar gardens and commercial rooftop. And then on the EV side, meaning EV charging, we essentially do solutions that help individuals or businesses to provide charging opportunities. But then we have also a unique product that is called an EV Power Hub that is for multi-family housing, because that's an area we can talk about more. But we believe that EV charging should be done at night, and it should be done during the times when there's lots of time available to charge a vehicle, which is at night. And a lot of people do not live in single family homes. They live in multifamily residences. And so we have a solution to help with that. We also do battery storage and related solutions, but batteries are not as, I would say, developed as a market and as a solution as some of the other technologies. So we do some of that. But, like I said, it's a little more expensive in terms of payback than some of the other things. So I'd be glad to talk about any of these things, but our prowess and differentiation is still our engineering background. We are focused on, I'll call it electrical engineered solutions, because all of these require some sort of custom engineering. And in that respect, we have full PEs and structural engineers and the whole suite of engineers touching the projects rather than just generalists. And so I think what that translates to is projects that are done right the first time, and you know, very good designs that translate into good installations.
And so you're based right here in the Twin Cities, right? And
So for 12 years we've been based in the Twin Cities. We do work nationally right now. At this instance, we have a project in Arizona, Maryland, Ohio, Illinois, Dakotas. But our home base is here, and our licenses are in the six Midwest states of Wisconsin, Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska. But we do have licenses in other places, and as needed, we do the projects, and we use subs both because of capacity as well as in terms of specific licensure in other places.
who are your primary clients? You said you work primarily in the commercial sector.
Yeah, so I think our primary focus is around commercial projects, and I would define commercial includes even government, because that the only difference there really is just the whole bidding process that the government goes through. But the projects are very, very similar, whether it's a government-owned facility, warehouse, let's say, and a private one. We also do a lot of nonprofits, um, schools and churches. I guess private schools, I should say. Public schools will go the same way of other government buildings. But all that to me is under the commercial umbrella. And we have different financing mechanisms also to help nonprofits, such as power purchase agreements and other kind of lease and loan, options.
Okay. Any particular projects that you're working on, or any clients that you can mention by name that you might want to I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but just to get a sense of any of the specific projects you've worked on.
I'll name a couple of different things that we've done and doing. So one of the more unique projects we've done is next to Target Field, the Twins baseball stadium, is a giant 7-story ramp called Ramp A. We put a megawatt of solar carport on there, and it's not just that it's a megawatt of solar, but the carport itself is a very complicated structural um, design because it is 7 stories up. You cannot have snow or water just running off of it as you would normally tilt it a certain way, because there is actually a highway right underneath it and roads on all sides of it. So we had to have a design that is both can withstand, heavy weather, as well as be able to run the snow and the water into channels within the ramp. So it's a very complicated structural piece of design in addition just to putting solar on there. So that's been operating for a few years, but we're doing an exact same project right now at Abbott Hospital's Alina ramp. It's another, I think it's 6, 7 story ramp that we're doing very similar. So that's one project. We're doing some projects in tribal lands. So that's interesting because tribes are really starting to want to be energy independent and try to solve the cost of energy. So those are interesting things. We did a project for both Mystic Lake as well as tribes up north. And then we do regular commercial projects, but probably some of the more interesting ones are some of the churches who don't have the cash nor have ability to even borrow money because they have maybe lien covenants against their buildings. So we do a number of financing programs for them where they can get power for free, or I should say, they can get a discount on their power until it's paid for with a third party investor. So lots of different kinds of things, that we work on. But I'll tell you the more interesting thing is something that's unique that we've done is this EV Power Hub solution for multifamily housing. We were doing a lot of solar for them. But when you think about EV charging, and again, the concept is that, you're in a place for 6 to 8 hours at night where the rates are the lowest. And if you are living in an apartment or a condo, you do not have control over where and how you can put a charger in there. So getting an owner or a management company to be forward thinking and provide charging options and not just put a bank of 4 to 8 chargers at the front of the building, because then you think about that's a race by the tenants to get home first from work, right? And see who can get a spot earliest. And it's also unfair because the guys that get in there first, they take all the power, and then the ones that get there late maybe don't get as much power. So we have a system that we've designed. Again, it's because we're engineers and electricians both, that is able to provide power and a charger to the stall that you are given by your management company. So you don't have to move your vehicle. You charge it whenever you want, how you want. We also provide more power to the building, and we do something called adaptive charging, which means that it regulates the power of how many people are coming on. And most importantly, it provides a profit center to the owners, because this charge is all happening through a centralized system on their meter, not a residential meter, so that they can control it, regulate it, and offset it through solar. So it's just a win-win-win for everybody. The tenants get cheap charging solution at their own stall. The owners of the management company get a frankly have happy tenants, but more importantly, they make a good money on this new revenue stream, and it can all be offset through a solar system that they can put on through their main meter, which they might not even been able to do before because their usage is probably not even big enough. So again, win all around. So that's kind of a unique solution that we're always proud of. And then we do a lot of lighting controls, if you can believe it, and still a lot of lighting projects, lighting retrofit projects, especially in churches and nonprofits who have sanctuaries and have specialty lights, or have super high ceilings and can't get to their lights, on a easy repair basis. So we do lots of different kinds of electrical work.
So a lot of different needs for different clients, and you're able to figure out the solutions for them that make the most sense for
Yep.
the
That's
people.
that's our strength. Again, we were founded by two engineers, still engineering at heart. I'm not an engineer. My MBA was in marketing, and I actually worked a lot in corporate as a Six Sigma Master Black Belt. So I have kind of a process background. So we have great handoffs. We have fantastic tight processes. We do things right the first time, and we have a fantastic knowledge base of experts that know how to manage the technical side.
Are you seeing more interest now in these types of solutions? Because not only are people, I think sustainability is top of mind for a lot of people now, but also some of the state and federal incentives out there for doing these types of projects. Is there a lot of interest in that now? And can you touch on that a little bit?
That question, I have three things that come to mind. Number one, yes, there's a lot of federal and state incentives, but they go mainly to federal and state entities, which then require a bid process. So there's really not much of a relationship in terms of providing a right solution. They're doing their own thing, then they post the bids, and then you're kind of bidding. And unfortunately, it's a lot of times it's low cost, low bidder in there. So that is what it is. The thing that really changed the game was 2 years ago when the Biden administration passed the IRA act, basically grandfathering in an increase of 30% ITC, investment tax credit, that is good for 10 years. or now 8 years, but also had other incentives that went along with it. And I don't mean to be like political in this because it shouldn't be political, but it allows the industry predictability to be able to plan for a longer runway. Whereas, when you're kind of vulnerable at government regulations, you're really not sure, and the investments are all holding back. Whereas here, it gave the industry a lot of runway to be able to be predictable, which unfortunately right now there's a lot of talk about tariffs possibly being kicked in by either administration, with panels being produced in Asia. Who knows? But these are vulnerabilities. But like I said, what the IRA did is it really kickstarted a lot of things. Plus, it provided direct pay to nonprofits that could get the tax incentives in a form of a check directly from the Treasury. That was a big, big, big win. Okay, so those are all positives. So I'm going to throw a negative in there. What it also did is it allowed a lot of new players to come in because there are really low barriers to entry, especially on the consumer side. There's a lot of players that came in, especially call centers out west. I don't want to name them specifically, that are just barraging people with lead generations, and they're not technical in any shape or form, but they do a good sell job. And unfortunately, the customers, I don't think that most people in the United States, and when I say most, I'm talking about overwhelmingly almost everybody, can name a single brand in this industry other than maybe the EV car manufacturers. Most people don't know EV chargers, they don't know solar products, they don't know inverters, they don't know panels. So they're kind of flying at the mercy of who they're speaking to. And a lot of people are coming in because of the low barriers to entry to sell and talk to a customer. They're overselling, they're overstating the savings, the financing is crazy. You might have heard it, but in Minnesota, the attorney general is suing a whole bunch of companies because they include these outrageous dealer fees of 25 to 35%, 25 to 35%, in addition to the interest that they're bringing in. Again, I don't want to name the companies, but it's public record. So that is this big wave of things that are happening that are, I hate to say it, bringing a pretty bad reputation to the marketplace that is starting to wake up and be interested. And all of a sudden, you got these people that are selling snake oil, and then 2 years later, the customer realizes that they were oversold, or the projects don't even get done. And then they call companies like ours to go then solve the issue. We have done that repeatedly. There's been a lot of companies, by the way, that have gone out of business as well, which is again another reason to put a black eye for the industry. So it's really funny. On the one hand, you got all this excitement going on. On the other hand, you've got these things going on, and then you've got a California market that's really changing as well. They're kind of soured on it because again of these bad apples, and people kind of overstating what the savings are, and that's again a big difference with us and others. We tend to be more conservative than others. So when we're, proposing production savings, we tend to be conservative, accurate versus trying to oversell it and overstate it. We actually do studies on what we forecast to what is actual production. We run about 96 to 104%. So that's pretty awesome, considering that the industry standard is between 80 to 85%, which means that people out there are overstating their savings by 15 to 20%. And that has a lot of driving of what the mood of the industry is, unfortunately. So a lot of positive things, but there are some things to keep your eye out for.
Yeah, when you look ahead to the future, the coming year, for example, what do you see as some of the other challenges and opportunities out there? I mean, let's talk about EV stations, for example. Do you think that'll be a must-have in apartment projects of the future and multifamily developments. I know they're already talking about, I believe in St. Paul, having requiring the infrastructure to be in place for EV stations. But what can you tell me about that, and where do you see this industry heading?
Well, again, I'm just giving you my opinion of
Mhm.
what I see different factors coming together. So we know for a fact that electric vehicle purchases are continuing to go up, even though the growth rate might have slowed down a little bit. The total numbers are still growing, and they will be, maybe not exponentially, but they're very much growing incrementally. As a matter of fact, all vehicles, I remember something like, I think it was Chrysler about a year ago announced that in 3 years, all of their vehicles will be electric. The fascinating part about that is everybody knows about, you know, Audis and of course Chevys and Teslas, but at that time, Chrysler didn't have a single vehicle that was electric. And they're saying that in 3 years, the whole entire fleet is going to be electric. So I'm just saying that's where the auto industry is. Again, regardless of what politics, talks these days, it doesn't matter. You've got on the one hand, you got some people talking down on EVs, and at the same time, you got um, Elon Musk and the same party promoting it. So I'm just saying, forget the politics side. It is happening, right? That's where the industry is going. So the charging, therefore, has to keep up with that. And right now, I think we have it a little bit backwards because it's been promoting city stations where there's lots of volume. So you see a lot of Hy-Vees and Targets and all of these Walmarts that have all these chargers. Well, the cost to charge at these stations, which a lot of people might not know, is same if not higher than it is to buy gas.
Mhm.
So if people are going to go and expect that their vehicle is going to be charged in a retail environment, they are sadly mistaken. There's not going to be a savings other than the fact that they're driving electrification, right? So again, charging should be done at the lowest possible rates in the times that you have available. So when are the times available? Well, I guess if you go play golf for 4 to 6 hours, that might be useful. But for the most part, for most people, it would be at work. So I think in the future, maybe another 5 to 10 years, I think companies at work will offer charging as an employee benefit when all other employees can do that because they're here for long periods if they continue to go into work, of course, right? Maybe that's an incentive to get their people to come to work. And by the way, I'm kind of going off of a side. Um, that benefit, if you're going to work, also, the future, I think, of charging is going to be so interesting because it's going to be integrated to our grid as a whole. What I mean by that is when you were just saying at the very beginning, you're glad that the super high warm temperatures of summer are leaving us, right? And as everything gets hotter and hotter, we need more and more air conditioning, right? So during those middays, when you're at a company, right, your spike of demand is at the highest in that noontime period when air conditioning is cranking and your operations are going. So the future is going to be what F Ford F-150s already offer is a reverse charge where the car can charge the building as an F Ford 150 can do already. What
Hmm.
that means is that think about all the cars in the parking lot that are plugged in to the company's stations that will be charging the building. And then when that midday high point is done, then the building will continue to charge the vehicles. And that way you kind of flatten out that demand curve, which is how companies get charged, by the way, also. So that's one way to do it is at work. Another way to do it where the rates are cheapest is at night, right? Night rates are the cheapest and you're there for a big period of time. That's the best time to charge your vehicle at home, right? So the only question really is when you're not home, you're at a hotel, you're at a resort, so they need to offer charging because it's your home away from home. So that's another market that will need to be done. And then, of course, a lot of people don't live in a single individual home. And I already explained that we have a solution called the EV Power Hub that can help tenants and management companies and owners to provide that charging at home when it's most valuable to people that live in multi-unit, residences. So that's what I'm going to very simplify is the world of EV charging that I believe in. There'll be some charging, of course, on highways when you have to go one way or the other. So those are some other ideas too. And I
Hmm.
think for a long while, until that infrastructure really gets up there, I think plug-in hybrids is another good solution because you can drive it around the city um, on your smaller battery that takes a shorter charge, and that should be sufficient for most people. If that battery's 45, versus maybe 300 miles, that's just fine. Most people don't drive more than that in the city. And then the twice a month that you have to go a longer distance, you can use your hybrid, and that probably is a good solution, frankly, for maybe rural environments as well, where they need that gasoline backup option because they're driving longer distances. You know, so that's just my personal opinion of how I think I see the market going.
Yeah, some great insights there. Lev, do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share before I let you go?
No, as I said, we try to um, give our clients the right solution that they need. I don't want to oversell them. That was my point about the battery side of things. I think in the coasts, you see right now what's happening in Florida and the Carolinas and Georgia. They need backup, so their battery storage is really important. Us here, we don't get outages very often. So I think a simple $400 generator might be the backup for a little bit. Unless you're running some IT security or some machine that just can't stop, then maybe you want to invest in something like that. So we try to do customized solutions for what the customers need. And yeah, solar batteries, they go hand in hand. And of course, I already talked about EV solutions, and then of course there's low hanging fruit like, you know, replace your windows and caulk seals and replace your lights. That's something I hope everybody's done already. But that's what we do for businesses and our clients.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. And I never knew that these projects had so many different layers to them, like the one at Target Field that you mentioned. It's interesting conversation. So,
Yeah, yeah. It's because we provide pretty much any electrical and waste solution in a building. We go from walking in, you're thinking you're talking about solar, and then you look up and you're like, well, wait a second, you still have fluorescent lights. Let's get those changed. Then you go out in the parking lot and they have metal halides, and you're like, my God, I can save you 80%,
hmm.
with a year and a half ROI. And then next thing you know, they're like, well, I need to upgrade my panel and electrical. Can't you do that as well? And that, by the way, can be rolled into a solar project and eligible for the same ITC benefits. So there's just so much in a building that is out there. I mean, we still run into so many manufacturing companies with power factor correction issues, and those are pretty easy, VFD solutions. So, yes, that's kind of our world. So, thank you for asking me, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Lev. And well, good luck to you, and we'll hopefully talk again soon.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yep, bye bye.
Take care. Bye.